Welcome to the party. I'm not here right now, but I want you to listen very carefully. These guys are very funny, so pay attention. Enough talk. It's showtime.
Hello and welcome to Bags of Action. My name's Steve and my co-host is Pete.
Hello.
This episode we're going to talk about the 2008 film, and at the moment it's the latest in the Rambo series, but there might be another one in the future, we don't know.
There's talk, I think, of the fifth one being on the verge of going into pre-production.
They keep talking about it because it's maybe something to do with Mexico.
Yes, the Mexico story, I do, I was going to come to that later, but from watching the extras of the DVD, this film was very nearly set in Mexico.
Yeah, well, before we do that, we'd probably just do a bit of Bags of Action news. We were just talking before we started recording. So I was just saying that this week, of course, Olympus Has Fallen came out, or last week in the UK, so Die Hard in the White House. So I'm probably going to see that soon. Looks like it's got plenty of bags of action.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to White House Down, which is essentially the same film, but with Channing Tatum and directed by Roland Emmerich, who everyone goes, oh, Roland Emmerich, Independence Day, whereas I say, Roland Emmerich, Universal Soldier, which I still think is his best film. I think it's just me on that one.
But Olympus Has Fallen has got Gerard Butler and there's a Channing Tatum. So.
Yes. But I think Olympus Has Fallen was massively rushed through to get it to be the first one out of those two films. I don't know, unless the Die Hard in the White House is a new genre that no one's told me about.
Well, it was previously done, of course, in 24, which is a TV show purely made of bags of action.
That is true. It takes some beating.
So you didn't exactly blow it up, but you had, a bit of a spoiler for those who haven't seen it. You had people sneaking in through underground canals that emerged under the White House. Pure nonsense, of course. But and then there's fighting and blowing up, and they take the president hostage in the White House, and it was crazy. So they've now done that as two films.
Was that in the? I didn't see all of 24. Where did I get to? 6, I think.
Outside the 7 or 8, I'm not sure. It's still Jack, not quite dead, nearly dead.
I was
fighting people
in the days before it was so easy to watch things digitally. So I was a victim of the being with Virgin when I think it was Sky decided to take Sky One away. So I lost that and Prison Break at the same time, and two shows I never got around to watching the end of.
Well, Prison Break went downhill, and I think it was the end of 6 where they should have stopped doing 24. A perfect ending. And then, God, we'll do another one. And then they brought him back, and I was like, oh, no, you had the perfect ending. Why did you do it? No. But there you go. Yeah. Why would we let art get in the way of making money?
Well, that's true.
Anyway, not to start off too cynical.
Well,
let's
positive.
Positive, yes. So today we're going to talk about a fantastic film.
Actually, sorry, but I just remembered another piece of Bags of Action type news. Have you heard who's just been cast in Expendables 3?
No.
Wesley Snipes.
Really?
I don't know if he's out of prison yet. Or
he is. He's been released.
I was wondering if he's going to be doing it while he's on parole or something. But yeah.
No, he served about 8 months, I think, of a couple of. I think he had a 2-year or an 18-month sentence or something like that, but he served about 7-8 months for tax evasion.
And Blade Trinity.
Hey, I like Blade Trinity. Don't be dissing Blade Trinity. Hannibal King. No, I love that.
No,
Andrea Bocelli. He's blind.
But I think it's good. Obviously, reunited. I knew you said reignited with Demolition Man.
Really?
Still Stallone, but reunited with him. But I don't know. I've always thought Wesley Snipes was a good action star anyway, from like Passenger 57 as well, and obviously the Blade films.
He's done so much though. He wasn't he in US Marshals and things like that?
And then near the kind of latter part of his career, he was doing more of a Van Damme type thing of doing films shot in Bulgaria with British TV stars. He did a thing with Tamsin Outhwaite not that long ago, which
Right.
I think was you've become a straight to DVD type person. So it'd be good to get him back up where he belongs.
Isn't that a song?
Yes, I didn't break into song then. You'll be pleased to know.
Okay.
Although at some point on the show I may end up singing It's a Long Road, but we'll see.
Well, okay, there's another film that I really want to see. I'm just going to find the name of it. Now, it stars 2 giant action stars.
Okay.
And it's actually Stone Cold Steve Austin
Nice.
and Dolph Lundgren.
Nice.
And the film is called The Package. Have you heard about this?
I haven't.
Oh, it's fantastic. It's a straight to DVD one as well. So, it wasn't that good because it didn't get cinema release, but it looks like it's full of bags. And I think this is Stone Cold's second film with Dolph Lundgren.
Perhaps there are a couple.
So, I wouldn't like to speculate, given that Steve Austin is on his 4th marriage. So I'm not saying anything. But so it's yes, it looks like it's going to be lots of fun, lots of bags of action, lots of blowing stuff up and shooting people. It's what you'd expect really from the 2 of them.
Sounds fine. Sounds good to me.
Yeah, action fodder it's been described as. But there you go. So I think still Stone Cold Steve Austin is great. Really enjoy him. And Dolph Lundgren's just a mental case.
Well, thinking of 2 Dolph Lundgren related stories, actually, of the Master of the Universe reboot is being done by the G.I. Joe Retaliation director.
Right.
And they've confirmed that Dolph Lundgren will be doing a cameo.
Okay. Right, interesting.
Been in the previous Master of the Universe film.
That's He-Man
in
himself.
1987, which is scary that film is that old.
Wow. And he was so ripped back then.
Yeah.
Now he looks just really kind of haggard.
He does, but I think I sent you this link the other day. We should put it in the show notes. There's a new reality show that Dolph Lundgren is hosting.
Yeah.
It's got a terrible name, which is Race to the Scene. They've shot a pilot for it, and I've seen some clips of it online. But basically, the contestants have got to reenact scenes from films and from. It looked like it was just going to be action films, but it's pretty much across all genres. But Dolph Lundgren's hosting it, but massively, massively sending himself up and react. He's acting out scenes and stuff. So he plays Arnie as a Terminator arriving. He just acts out these scenes from other films. It's just the strangest, most surreal thing I've ever seen. I think it's been picked up in the States, and I'm hoping that it gets. Yes, it's going to be out in June in America, so I'm hoping that one of the strange minor UK cable or satellite channels will pick it up, just because it looks quite funny.
Wow. Okay. I've only got one other small bit of news, and it's bags of action related-ish, given that it stars our main man, Stallone. Nice. Have you heard about this? It's a well, there's no way to say it really. Rocky the Musical is coming to Broadway.
What?
I'm not joking. So the stage musical based on the hit film Rocky is to open on Broadway. So it's actually opening in Germany later this year, or I think maybe it was last year. It was billed as Rocky Das Musical last November.
I've just seen this. He's co-producing it with the Klitschko brothers.
Yes. So the songs have been written, and I was watching some videos online of it last night with some of the songs and some of the read-throughs and all that sort of stuff. And it looks, it opened quite well in Germany, and it's going to open later this year in Broadway.
Do you know what? If that came to the West End, I would go and see it.
I think so. I think I would go and see that. From when I looked at it, it's not the film. It's not meant to be the film, given the fact that they're singing and dancing, But the guy looks the part. He met Stallone, and it looks funny and looks amusing and looks like it's got the heart of the film, and that's what they were going for. All about these two people that are pretty much nobodies, really, but together they make something, and he has a dream, and he doesn't win the fight as he never did in the first film. So. Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, sorry. It's from 1977, I think.
Yeah, exactly. You never know.
Spoilers. So Yes, Rocky Das Musical, or Rocky the Musical, as it will be called when it comes over
But,
here.
Gonna Fly Now, Eye of the Tiger. There's some good songs in there anyway.
Some great ones.
Assuming they keep them in.
Yes, they do. They do. I'll send you the clips later, and you can sing along and maybe learn some moves.
Brilliant.
And then when it comes over here, it'll be like Rocky Horror. You can dance in the aisles and know all the steps.
I have, well, embarrassingly, why am I doing this? But I will admit that in a school talent show when I was about 11, I choreographed with my sister my own dance routine to Eye of the Tiger, which involved me pretending to punch people and got laughed off the stage.
Oh, yeah. How much work did you put into it?
A few evenings.
That's dedication to a dream.
I remember the moves, but as the podcast, I won't do them now.
That'll be for the video extras or the webcam version of maybe the 50th episode of Bags of Action.
In 2092, the rate that we're putting these shows out.
Pretty much, yeah. Anyway, so should we talk about the film we actually came on to talk about?
We're kind of destroying the format here as we go.
Sorry, but yes, we've done a bit of news. Now let's come on to the film. So, Rambo came out in 2008, and for a long time, I didn't think we were going to get another one. Now, here's a confession. I haven't seen all of the other ones.
What? I know you well enough to find that very strange and hard to believe, because A, they're great action films, and B, I can't imagine you watching a film if you haven't seen the other ones in sequence. So who are you, and what have you done with Steve?
I'm cloned.
Yes.
Yes, I'm the German one who's come.
Which ones haven't you seen then? This is a shocking revelation.
I think I've seen the first one.
Yep.
It's got to be 15 years or more since I've seen any of them. Right. I haven't had repeat viewings, and I've never had them on DVD and didn't have them on VHS. So it's one of these things where you'd go to a friend's house in the old days, watch a video, or you'd rent a video. We'd walk. Here's a telling story. We'd walk to the video den, as it was called, and it'd have sort of 300 VHS cassettes on the walls that you would then rent 2 for £5. And then walk the 2.5, 3 miles back to a friend's house and watch them.
Well, me and my friend used to take because we were all under 18 or even under 15, would take my nan with us to the video shop. And she'd be like, Night of the Living Dead, Predator, here you go. And go up and goes, and they go, oh, you are over 18, thank you. And then just get home. And she'd just shut the door in the living room and just let us watch whatever we wanted.
Your nan sounds ace.
Yeah, she was.
So I think I've seen one.
Okay.
And part of another one, but don't remember which one it is now, you see.
Gosh.
Yeah, sorry, that's my confession.
Okay, well, I will confess having seen them all.
Lots.
No, not lots, actually. I think I saw the first one on TV a long, long time ago and really, really liked it. Then I think... Then it was in the 80s, it was kind of the big kind of... When there's the spin-off cartoon series and action figures, which I look back now and think, is a guy killing loads of people with a machine gun and a knife. It's a children's toy. He just wouldn't get away with that these days. I remember when the Rambo thing was huge. Then the second one I saw, I think, on VHS. And the third one, I think I saw at someone's house on a pirate copy.
Ooh.
But I remember feeling that they kind of got progressively worse.
Right.
And I wasn't that keen on the third one. But I think I've only seen them once. Actually, no, I tell you a lie. I think I've seen First Blood on TV again since.
Okay.
And then this one, watched as soon as it came out on DVD, and I've watched it again now for this show.
Well, I've seen it 3 times. I own the soundtrack because it's by one of my favourite composers who does scores, a guy called Brian Tyler.
Okay.
He's done tons and tons of... You just look up briantaylor.com, I think it is, and you can listen to free samples of lots of film soundtracks that he's done. He's even done some odd ones, like he did Bubba Hotep, of all things, before he got massive. And the soundtrack for that is brilliant. So, yes...
he's done Iron Man 3.
There you go. But he's done... I mean, go down the list. He must have done... He's done games as well as a lot of films.
Yeah. Okay.
So, have you got the list there?
Yeah.
Call out a couple of the other films that he's done then.
He's currently working on the Highlander remake. Interestingly, Rambo, which obviously we know. Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift.
A low point, but never mind.
Constantine.
Yeah.
Star Trek Enterprise. Battle Los Angeles. Both the Expendables films.
Yes, he did Eagle Eye, I think.
That's right.
Was it the one?
Law-abiding Citizen, Final Destination.
You see, he's done some big films. He's
heard of him before, which is considering that list of films. I'm quite surprised.
So yeah, I tend to write to soundtracks with anything without words, really, so it's not too distracting. And he's got some brilliant ones. So you've got some great loud tracks, some lovely soft tracks for sort of quieter moments. So yeah, I recommend Brian Tyler.
Check out some of his other work.
Yeah, absolutely. So back onto the film itself, we've got an aging John Rambo who's essentially retired.
Or aged. I'm not sure if he's aging. I think he's very well and truly aged.
Yeah, he's wearing a big loose shirt to cover up the fact that, then again, he is still pretty
No, it's
ripped.
true. I wouldn't argue with him.
No, I wouldn't raise my voice to him. So this aged John Rambo, who owns a little boat, and he puts up and down the river on the edge of Burma.
That's right.
I think he's in Thailand or where he actually...
Yeah, just over the Thai border.
Yes, so he goes and collects snakes for various people to have snake fights in the pit and that sort of thing, and just potters around and lives on his boat and lives a very quiet life. And then these evangelical Christians come to him and ask if they can rent his boat to take them over the border into Burma,
right,
so they can bring peace and love and joy and God to all of the people there.
Yes.
Although probably not quite as patronizing about Jesus, but there you go.
And hilarity ensues. No, and then it just becomes very, very brutal. Very brutal indeed.
Well, he says to them, "Are you taking any weapons?" And they say, "No." He goes, "We're not going to change anything." And they're like, well, that's not what we're going for. You're not going to change anything. And he just won't go and just won't budge until Julie Benz kind of convinces him and appeals to his better nature that maybe people can change. Maybe we can help them over there and all innocent people suffering. And for whatever reason, he agrees and takes them over there.
Yeah, and it's very... I mean, when they do get there, the scenes in the film are very brutal. I think the Burma backdrop helps it stop being cheesy, because I think the returning to a Rambo film after this amount of time, it could have easily been a throwback to the 80s, and it could easily have been something a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but it's almost a bit like the final Rocky film, that it feels like there's an added layer of depth, a bit like bookends in a way, which is why I'd be annoyed if they do another film, because where Rocky worked, I think, those films got progressively more kind of jingoistic.
Yes.
The final film felt true to the first film.
I think you're right. The first and the last ones are actually the best. The second one is quite good because he wins. It was all about, okay, that was a fluke. All you could do was go the distance. Now it's okay, but do you have it in you to win? So 1 and 2, 1's brilliant, 2's quite good. And then the final one is probably my favorite because it has so much weight.
Yeah.
And it's the same with this, even though I haven't seen the other ones. You've got this guy who's He's done it. He's been there. He's killed 1 billion men with a knife and a gun. He doesn't need to do it anymore. He just wants to live a quiet life the rest of his days. But he's dragged back into this against his better judgment.
And I think as well with the other films, the first film is slightly different because it's an overzealous sheriff treating him poorly when he comes home from Vietnam. So it's quite a different film, and it's based on a book. The second film is more like rescuing POWs in Vietnam. The third film, rescuing behind Russian airlines in Afghanistan. And I think the Vietnam and Afghanistan things are more public wars, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think what he tried to do here, because obviously he co-wrote and directed it, which is more like he's done with Rocky, is actually to take what's happening in Burma and use that as a more realistic-ish backdrop to the story. Because once you do get into Burma, I mean, you see children murdered, you see people being raped, there's mass slaughter, and it's almost as if people are being used for sport. And it does make you kind of, I mean, it thankfully doesn't veer too much into the kind of 80s sort of vigilante kind of death wish thing, but it does make you go, yes. And there's an element of self-defense here. There's also an element of there's some terrible, terrible things being done here, and he's kind of making a stand against it.
But even before, I mean, there's some bits that he agrees to take them on the boat. They're going down the river. Halfway there, they come across this pirate camp, and he sort of turns off the light, turns off the engine, and they're cruising past. And he's like, "Don't say anything. Don't move. Stay perfectly still, because if they catch us, they'll kill us. They'll chop us all up. You'll all be raped to death, and that's it." So they all sit shitting themselves, quite rightly so. And then, of course, the inevitable happens, and the pirates catch up to them. And it's not going well. They realise that there's a woman on the boat. It's all falling apart. And then he snaps into action and basically chops them all up and blows them to pieces. Mm-hmm. Now, me, at that point, no matter how good a heart I might have, no matter how I'm thinking, I want to help these people, these suffering tribes people, but at that point, I'd be like, turn the fucking boat around.
Yes, that's very
I'd just be like, I thought about this. I've had second thoughts. I think it's a little bit more dangerous than I've really realised. And I'm going to agree with what you said earlier. Let's go home.
Yeah. Definitely, because I don't think, I'm just thinking about it, because he shoots first, doesn't he, on the boat?
Yeah, they're trying to get Julie Benz's character, Sarah, off. I think they're going to essentially let them go if they give him the woman. Yeah. And he's saying, well, no. You can't. They go, give me the woman. We've got guns. We've got a woman. Give me the woman. And he just goes, no. And then just shoots one of them through the face.
That's right.
And then the rest get killed very quickly.
Because I think there's a mixture of things there. First of all, you would be frightened of the situation. But also, who is this? This bloke who's giving us a lift at the river is a psycho. Yes. Because the whole thing, for me, the whole thing certainly the first film is obviously they drew first blood and he retaliated. So it's almost like self-defense, but he definitely drew for, unless that's meant to be the kind of change in him over time. But he certainly didn't wait for anyone to try and hit him.
No, but I think he knew what kind of people they were, and he's seen the atrocities they committed, these pirates. So he knows that you can't rationalize with them, you can't reason with them. There was no point even trying. He did to begin with, but they were having none of it. So he thought, well, it's either give them the woman and we go home, or give them one when we keep on, or I kill them, and then we decide what we want to do.
I think as well, in a way, Stallone is kind of realising the change in the audience, because in the 80s, it's like, they're the bad guys, we're the good guys, let's kill them, that's fine. But I think, as people have become more wise to the world, and I think people are less inclined to watch something that's just like that, I think he's deliberately given the backdrop of so many appalling things that, in spite of yourself, you do end up saying, you do end up kind of buying into his methods. Yeah.
It's sort of justifiable. You think, that's fair enough.
And thankfully as well, it doesn't continually be completely bleak, because I think it's quite good, because the government can't be seen to help officially. So they send a team of mercenaries in, including Matthew Marsden, British actor, playing Schoolboy. Which is a bizarre name. And it's quite interesting to watch then, because, yes, Rambo is somebody who, is very good with weapons and stuff, but he's also somebody who spent a lot of time in other cultures and is actually quite respectful of those cultures. And that's the difference, I think, between him and where the mercenaries are very much, they just want to go in, do the job, get paid and get out. Whereas he is more about being respectful, but also actually he does want to help people, almost in spite of himself.
We should say that the missionaries, he does eventually drop them off at the village. They are helping people, giving them medical aid, treating their wounds, looking after them, reading to them as well, reading the Bible to them and all the rest of it. And it's all nice and gentle until the Burmese turn up again, soldiers, and start blowing up the entire village, killing everybody, and then they kidnap and torture the missionaries, and then if they haven't reported back in, and that's when that's when someone contacts him and says, look, we need to go and get them back. Will you help? Will you ferry these people up the river? And that's when they bring the mercenaries along, and he's just supposed to take them up the river, which
is quite clever, because with the missionaries you think, well, he's bound to know more about it than them and understand the situation more. But then when it's the mercenaries as well, you think, that is kind of like the Rambo myth, I suppose, isn't it? That even though these guys are trained killers and they've done this before, and he's supposed to just be in the background, he's the only one really who can do anything about it.
It's funny as well because one of the guys there, one of the mercenaries called Lewis, who's played by a Scottish guy called Graham McTavish, who you can currently see in The Hobbit as Dwalin, I think one of the bigger dwarfs. Anyway, he's so over the top. He's so in your face. He's so loud. He's so sure of himself. And I've done that. Yeah, I've got the money. I've done this and that. And he keeps going on and on and on and on and on. And then he's having a go, going, what are you looking at, boatman? Keeps calling him boatman all the time. And it's really bizarre because Rambo's almost completely silent. The other guy's so loud and so in your face and so sure of himself. And yet Rambo says pretty much nothing. And he's so still.
Yeah.
And you almost forget the scene earlier when he was on the boat and there with the pirates, because there again, he was perfectly still until they threatened him. And then he just tried to reason, and then he snapped.
Like a cobra.
If you like.
I don't know whether not trying to refer to his earlier film, which is another classic. But maybe that's deliberate. He's catching snakes at the start to fight, and they stay completely still until they have to strike.
Maybe, but I just love that kind of contrast.
Yeah.
You almost forget what he's done before, and then the guy's totally... And then, of course, it doesn't work. The mercenaries completely are in over their head. They're completely stuffed. One of them I think one gets killed, one gets injured, and then they're like, right, we're ready to go, let's go home. So they're ready to give in straight away. And they hadn't realized how severe the horror was. The fact that the games the soldiers are playing, they throw a bunch of grenades into a rice paddy, take bets, and then urge at gunpoint several prisoners to run through, and whoever gets through to the other side without blowing up, and then they make them go back, and then just kill them all anyway.
Exactly. No, it's horrible and I think he's trying to say, these are terrible things happening in the world, but nobody's really talking about it. I read a few interviews with him where I think that was his, to try and use this kind of iconic figure as actually a way of making people more aware.
I think one of my favourite scenes is right at this beginning part where he's watched them and the soldiers have seen them herd these prisoners back and forth, and they suddenly start to begin to realise that we can't face this by ourselves. We haven't got enough men. We're in over our heads. And then Rambo just turns up with a bow. Now, they've got guns. They've got the ammo. They've got all of the sort of camouflage gear, and they're all gobby, and they've done it 1,000 times before. This bloke walks up with a bow and arrow and takes out about 6 of them. And it's just brilliant stuff.
All I can think of, though, when that happened, was scene in Gremlins 2.
I don't remember that.
Because when Gizmo starts to fight back in Gremlins 2, and this is at the point, I think, when Rambo was like the big, at one point, Rambo was like such a huge iconic kind of thing. But he gets a crow, quite a arrow, and ties a banner around his head to go and fight Gremlin. But this thing was the second shot's on kind of Paddy's thing, but it does do a big Rambo scene in there, because I think so I think here it's kind of almost putting it back to not just being this kind of OTT character, but no, that's a great scene. He does give himself some cracking action scenes.
And he just takes control, takes charge, and says, right, you come here with me, you go there. And they wipe them all out. And then he says, okay, now we're going to go and rescue the missionaries. And there's a couple of locals that turn up to help. And he's like, okay, right, show us where to go. And then they're just hiking through the jungle. A couple of them are injured, but they're still going to follow him. A couple of them want to quit and go back, but he's like, fine, I'm still going ahead. So he's going to do it with or without them. And we see all of the missionaries being held and tortured. We're seeing a bunch of local women being forced to dance and entertain all of the troops. And it's pretty brutal what they're doing to all their prisoners and stuff. It's a pretty severe prisoner of war camp.
Yeah, and it's I couldn't believe quite how short the film is.
Is it that short?
17 minutes.
Wow, okay.
Which is, by any standards, that's pretty short, but by modern standards, it's about an hour short. But But
well,
then
most films nowadays could do with losing half an hour. A lot of them are so flabby.
Everything was 90 minutes. When the Rambo films first came out, everything was 90 minutes. I mean, this is officially an hour and 36, but the credits kicked in at an hour and 17, which means quite long credits. But yeah, I mean, for me, it kind of shows how Rambo is as much a victim of war as he is a product of it. That makes sense.
Yes.
You know, because he's never been able to go home, and that I mean, we'll come on to in a sec. I think hopefully what they were thinking of doing with this fourth film, but obviously you haven't seen the others. In the first film, for anyone who hasn't seen it, he's trying to come home, and you know, some would argue that he's been so kind of institutionalized by the army and by war that he can't fit back in, but you could also argue that actually he's just treated very badly, as a lot of Vietnam vets were, so he can't really fit in, so he goes back, and then he's in Vietnam again, then he's in Afghanistan, so he's never quite managed to come home. And then here, you know, it does end, if I without spoiling, well, it will be spoiling, but the whole show is a spoiler. You know, he does get to come home, or he does get to, there's I think talking about his father, isn't it? I think where he talks about the fact that he hasn't seen his father, and then he tries to come home because for those who've seen the other three films, the Richard Crenna character, who sadly died before this was made, so wasn't in it. So I think if he had been alive, I think the character would have been in there, Troutman. He is almost like a father figure. Well, he is a father figure through the first three films. John Rambo.
Yeah. I mean, the story's not. We've kind of spoiled much of it anyway, but the long and short of it is he and the mercenaries rescue the missionaries and get them out and destroy their entire camp, and then they're hiking it back to the boat. One of my favourite bits, another favourite bit, is when he says, "Okay, they're following after John and the rest." So he says, "Right, I'm going to take some of Sarah's cloth off her shirt to get the scent because the dogs are coming after them. I get them to track me. I'll run off, and you make it for the boat." And so he takes the guy's claymore and goes, "Okay, I'll use this." And he runs off. And to quote something from Barry and Dave, there's running, and then there's chipping. And chipping is when you don't. Imagine you've got a herd of demons, bloodthirsty serial killers, anything really, really bad coming after you. You don't run, you chip. Now Rambo chips through this jungle. Man, he's jumping over logs, he's rolling down hills, he's pounding, his heart is going, you can see his arms and legs pumping away, and they're coming after him and racing. I'm thinking, oh my God, how is he going to get away? But it gets even better, because then he sets up the trap with the claymore. Now, I'm not an expert in weapons or in military technology and stuff, but I'm pretty sure a claymore isn't the equivalent of a small nuclear bomb.
Yes.
I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that when he set one off, it doesn't create a mushroom cloud. But he sets the trap, and then he's chipping again to get as far away as possible from his claymore, so that the second they set it off, it flattens about 5 miles of jungle, and he's just on the edge of the 5 mile radius.
I know, that's the thing. Is you think, he's gone there to help and he's rescued these people, but they're certainly not worried about collateral damage to the area.
No. Do you want to talk about the machine gun on the back of the Jeep?
Oh, yes, that is a great moment, I have to say. So it's as they're kind of making their escape, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'm trying to remember exactly what happens. He's taking it from them, isn't he? From the... They're taking it from the Burmese soldier.
Yes.
And then he just takes over, and he's just literally the amount of people that get ploughed down in that short space of time. I think someone did calculate this film. I think has the highest body count per minute of I think any Hollywood film, or something ridiculous. Because I think that scene probably helps with those numbers.
It's just he doesn't just shoot people. It's a 50 caliber machine gun mounted at the back of the Jeep, and he doesn't just kill them. He turns these people to jam. Yes. They just explode into the tiniest little pieces, and just cheering him on because it's just insane, and he just goes bananas with it.
Yeah, and I think that hit home more first time I'm watching it. I certainly got caught up in the whole, well, these people are terrible. And I think watching it a second time, and particularly watching it kind of, stop starting and kind of making notes and things, I was like, gosh, he really is annihilating everybody. It becomes a lot more obvious, I think.
He's a one-man army. He just eradicates them completely.
Yeah, it's scary, but it still makes for a very, again, as you said before about things being flabby, it's a very taut, very kind of tight script, and it's just pulled together really well, I think. And I think you were saying about Sly not speaking. I think some of his best roles in a way, but I think because he's got such a distinctive voice, I think the Copland and the last Rocky film and this, it's that kind of quietness and gestures and acting with the eyes and just not actually saying very much that I think actually makes it much more powerful.
Yeah, definitely. He's not someone who could be there doing long monologues. No. He doesn't need to. No. He just needs to stand there and look at people. I mean, there's an interesting twist as well where I guess it's all a part of war is terrible and the situation is terrible. And one of the missionaries looks around, this is right towards the end, and he sees everyone being killed. He sees all of his friends being shot at and tortured, and they've been cornered, and it looks like there's no way out. And then someone attacks him, and then he fights them back. He fights back against this guy, and he picks up a rock and essentially brains this guy out of self-defense, but also because he wants to live. So he's a person committed not to violence and not to killing others. And he gets really angry at John for saving them when he kills the pirates. And then at the end of the film, he bashes a man's skull in with a rock. Yeah. So, yeah. But anyway.
I don't think anything happens in that film without reason or intention. I think, although it's a short film, which could be seen as quite a slight film, I think that there's purpose. I think that's one thing I think as a writer-director, Stallone possibly doesn't get enough credit for, really. Is that he does make those decisions, for good reason. Yeah.
I mean, if you look at Rocky Balboa and some of the scenes in that where they don't say very much at all, and the way he cuts it and the lighting and the way it all comes together with the music, is just so good. And it's the same in this. It's not as bombastic. It's not as over the top as Expendables. No. There are a lot of scenes where other people are doing other stuff and he's not saying much, but then when he springs into action, it just turns into a giant bloodbath. And as you say, he's become this thing that war has made him, this weapon, this one-man army. And he was living a quiet life. He was living the rest of his days, hopefully, in a relative peace. And they brought him back into
and
this.
That's the thing, I think, running throughout all four films is that he's either asked to help someone or violence comes to him. He could have, you could argue it two ways, but he could have, post the kind of Vietnam War, just tried to live a normal life, but his life will never be normal. And I think you touched on it before about Mexico. I watched some of the DVD extras and interviews about lots of things about how they tried to raise the funding to get the film made and all this kind of stuff. But they also talked a lot about what the original idea was for the script when it got greenlit. The original idea was that Rambo was living back in America, and then his best friend's daughter went over to Tijuana over the border into Mexico for the night. Right. Didn't come back, and then he went over to get her, which to me sounds like Taken. Yeah. Probably a predated Taken, because I think the original plan, this was supposed to be made before Rocky Balboa, but that got greenlit first, so this slotted in afterwards, and over that time they changed their minds, and I'm so pleased they did, because if he was back at home dealing with a problem, you've almost completely changed the premise of Rambo to a certain extent. Yeah. If he's already home, then the series is kind of finished, and that's why I think it was important here that he's still traveling from place to place, trying to kind of eke out an existence, and then the only way he went home was at the end of the film, I think, where in many ways, by helping these people, he'd almost exonerated himself of the things he'd done before. So it'd be interesting to see if they do another film, because it doesn't feel like it needs one. Much like, making another Rocky film would seem quite pointless. I don't see how you can make another film without it purely being a way of making money.
And given that he's got I agree. I don't think you need to do another one. The end of this film is he walks down the road towards his dad's farm in America, and he's back in the United States, and that's it. So having another one would be a bit ridiculous. But given that he's got other franchises that are doing incredibly well, he's got the Expendables, and there's a third one we said on the way. There's the female Expendables that he's obviously not going to be in, but I'm sure he'll have a hand in it in somewhere, whether he writes it or directs it or co-writes it. So to do another one of these, I think it's kind of pointless. I mean, he's got a film coming out soon with Arnie.
Another one?
Yeah, there's sort of like a prison break thing with where Stallone is in prison, and so is Arnie, and Arnie's character helps him escape, and then I think Stallone gets out and then, I don't know, goes on a run or goes after somebody. That's a very, very basic premise. I read about it very quickly the other day. So it's not as if he's...
The Tomb.
There you go. I mean, he's got that boxing film at the end of the career sort of thing with him and Robert De Niro that's slightly less serious than a Rocky Balboa, a bit more of a comedy thing. So I don't think you need it. I don't think he's one, desperate for money, and two, desperate for choices, because this did really, really well, but so did all of his other films more recently, since the kind of break that he had.
Yeah, it's weird, because it feels like with this film and Rocky Balboa that he was essentially closing the chapter on the two things that he's most famous for, so he's not under the shadow of those characters anymore.
Yeah, it was a definite end. I mean, he always said that Rocky 5 wasn't happy with it. He was never happy with it, and he wanted to do a proper end, and so he did Rocky Balboa, and it was perfect. And I don't think you need to do it. I think that this is the best end you could do, I think, for Rambo, for the franchise. So he's come back. He's doing a different kind of film. He's tucked away these ones now. So I think he should just carry on and not look back anymore.
Yeah, it's weird. Apparently at the Berlin Film Festival in February, they were putting up posters for Rambo 5. But whether that was an attempt to get it off the ground or whether it is off the ground, does seem like a strange decision.
Yeah, I mean, he's not going to do another Rocky one now. The fact that he's got Rocky the Musical coming out, and that's gone back to the beginning, that's gone back to the challenge, back to, the heart, and that's what it's all about. So I'd hope he doesn't do another, really do. But we'll see. It all depends on, I don't know, the script, or if he really thinks it's necessary. A Grudge Match, that's the one he's doing with Robert De Niro. It's more of a sports comedy, as they've described it.
Enough with the yak. What is your score?
Yeah, so are we ready to give it a score?
Yes, I think so.
So, do you want to go first or me?
After you.
So I thought about this a lot, probably because we've had quite a while to think about it. And I was trying to think of what could actually top this. What could you get in terms of explosive action, end of a franchise, tying things up, an aging hero, this sort of Jerry action, if you like, as they're calling it. Nice. These sort of older. It's not I'm not claiming that, but that's what some people are saying. It. You've got the sort of the Arnie film and the Die Hard or Try Hard, as they're calling it, the new one, and then you had this one before all of that. So I'm actually going to give it 5 out of 5 bags.
Gosh,
because I actually think this is better than the Expendables.
I am not a big fan of the first Expendables, to the extent I haven't yet seen the second one.
What do you do on this podcast?
We can talk about it at length another time, but I thought it was charmless. That's how I describe it. And I don't think I'd been that excited about a film in a very long time, and I thought it was charmless. But I'm interested to see what the second one's like, especially as with some of the additional cast members. But no, I wasn't that keen on the first Expendables.
Okay.
So
how many bags are
I'm going to give it 4 bags.
Why only 4? What could top this for you?
I don't know. I can't explain what, but there's a magical ingredient that's missing to make it 5. But I don't know what that ingredient is. I think it's because I'd probably give the first film a 5, and I don't think it was quite as good as First Blood. I've spoken to people. There's a guy Alex that I work with that's a big action movie fan, and his thoughts are that First Blood isn't very good, and then it gets really good from the second one onwards. But I would argue the opposite, because for me, the second and third film are much more big Hollywood kind of and over the top, whereas the first film, what I really liked about it was that it was this guy who just wanted to go home, but they didn't trust him, so he ends up. This bloodbath is kind of justified.
Yeah,
and I think this is close to being as good as the first film, but it's not quite as good, so that's why I'm going to give it a 4.
Okay.
Is that your first? I think it might be your first 5.
It is. I believe so. Other people have to go back and check because I can't be asked. But I believe that's my first 5. I'm trying to think of what else I would give 5. I don't think of at the moment. I can't think of anything else that I would give. Even Expendables, no, I wouldn't give them 5. I'd give the first one 4, and the second one, because we don't do half bags. You can't have half a bag. I'd probably give the second one 3.
Yeah, I'd give the first one 2.
Gosh.
And I've been cut off, and that's the end of Bags of Action Forever. I'm gonna.
Well, if you do see the second one, you have to let us know what you think.
Why don't we? Not as the next show, because it's my pick, and I know what I want to do for that. But for maybe in a couple of shows' time, we watch Expendables and Expendables 2 and do a double episode about the 2.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
If I change my mind.
Double header.
Double, which sounds like a Pamela Anderson film.
The other one I do want to see, but I don't know when we'll get to watch it, but is the Bullet to the Head that came out earlier this year. My friend saw it, he said it was okay, but it wasn't brilliant. But I think the thing that I really want to see it for is an axe fight with Jason Momoa.
Nice.
So they both...
I'm sold on it.
They're both with axes, and he said, "What are we, Vikings?" or something like that. So, it looks great. I think I want to go just for that.
Did you know that Bullet to the Head? And I'm not reading this at all. Hang on a second. Did you know that Bullet to the Head was directed by Walter Hill?
No, I did not.
Do you know Walter Hill?
Remind me. Probably do, but I'm not at the moment.
Walter Hill has done Comfort, 48 Hours.
Ah, right.
Produced one of the Alien films, Red Heat, which I think is one of both of our. I hope it's what I think is a film we both big fans of.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow. What the hell?
48 Hours was originally going to be Clint Eastwood and Richard Pryor rather than Nick Nolte and Eddie Murphy.
Oh my God.
That's
okay. I know. Just know. Some things don't happen. And it's a blessing. As much as I love him, I really, really, really do. I love the Tash Man. Having him as Indiana Jones, no. Just no.
That is true. That is very true. And did you also know that Bullet to the Head is based on a French graphic novel?
Ooh, no. There you go.
Du Plomb dans la tête, which I think is the bullet on the head.
Bullet on the tête.
Yes.
Well, this is quite good because it all ties into the next couple of days. It's Free Comic Book Day. So go out and get that graphic novel.
Yes.
What was it called again?
You swine. Du Plomb dans la tête.
There you go. So if you try and find that, and if you can't, go and buy the DVD, or pre-order, I should say, Bullet to the Head, featuring Sly Stallone and Jason Momoa with his axe.
And Christian Slater.
Wow. Fantastic. And my favourite, Triple A, as I like to call him, because I can't pronounce his actual full name.
Yes, him.
But it was the Echo from Lost. So, and he was in Faster with the Rock film and a whole bunch of other things. So you know him when you see him.
I will indeed. So shall I reveal the next episode's feature production?
Yes, go for it.
I am going to take this down a notch in terms of credibility, possibly up a notch in terms of fun. I'm going to Stone Cold, big Pause.
Yeah.
Which stars ex-American footballer Brian the Boz Bosworth,
Right.
Lance Henriksen, and William Forsythe. It's from 1991.
Okay.
Directed by Craig R. Baxley. Now, what else has Craig R. Baxley done? Let's tell you. Craig R. Baxley was a stunt coordinator on Predator.
Yeah.
And also worked on the A-Team. What other films has he directed? This is what everyone wants to hear. Me scrolling through IMDb. He directed some of Human Target, the TV series.
I like that. That was good.
Yeah. Sniper 2. Action Jackson.
Okay.
And any episode A-Team.
All right. Okay. So I've not seen this one.
You've not seen Stone Cold? Okay.
No, I don't think I have. I thought you were going to say Stone Cold Steve Austin, and he just stopped. And I thought, oh.
Brian Bosworth is, I will just give you the slight premise, is a cop called Joe Hoff, who is undercover in a biker gang that's led by Lance Henriksen.
Okay, right.
Yes. It's the most 80s, 90s film you'll ever see.
All right. Okay, right. Okay. I'll see.
Okay.
I'm not. Well, I don't want to prejudge it in any way. So let's say I'm excited and looking forward to watching this.
Okay, let's say that.
Hey, it's only 95 minutes long, so
exactly.
It can't be that bad.
Well, I think this is the key now to getting the show out on time, is keeping our films nice and short.
Yeah, bargain. But we've done a slightly longer episode, even though we were away.
Actually, this episode is almost as long as the film.
Yeah, pretty much. So we better go before it gets to that full 91 minutes.
Yes.
Right. So thanks for listening. Send us in any feedback you've got about any great action films that you've seen and your bags rating. Remember, full bags only, no half bags, 1 to 5.
To berate me for what I said about Expendables. My action movie credentials away.
Follow us on Twitter at Bags of Action. You can post it on Facebook group that we've got set up as well. Just search for Bags of Action and come on there. And so keep watching action movies. Let us know what you think. And we'll be back sometime in the future.
We will, and more regularly, certainly is the plan.
Well, we won't promise that, but we'll try. We'll see you next time.
See you in the bag.
See you in the what?
I said see you in the bags. Doesn't make any sense.
No.
That's another one in the bag. No. I'm rambling. Sorry.
Okay. Bye.
Just fade out. Bye.
You have been listening to Bags of Action. No bullshit. You'd better stick around for the next episode, because if you're lying, I'll be back.